Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game here at the UFC Apex, being joined by the man of the hour, Mr. Dana White. Now, a great night of fights just wrapped up. Phil Rowe, the only one awarded the contract for the UFC. What did you think of his performance?
I thought he looked great. I thought, he got hurt early in the fight against a guy who's coming out of a camp that has had a lot of success. Obviously, his brother's on a run here, undefeated, and, they came in with a lot of confidence tonight. The kids had like 6 finishes in the first round and 4 of them in under 4 minutes. And he was lighting Phil up and hitting him with some big shots. I thought that he kept his composure well and just fought like a really mature fighter tonight. I think that physically, mentally, and emotionally, he's the only guy here tonight that's ready.
Now, speaking of ready, we are coming off a record-breaking UFC 241, and someone else who won on the Contender series, Yusuff, he was on the main card. What did you think of his performance?
That kid's a stud. He looked great. Every time he comes out and performs, he's a machine. He's got that nasty killer instinct where he just walks you down and finishes you. I love his style. And his fight on the Contender series pulled 4.5 million viewers. So that kid is he's special, and I think he's going to be a big star.
Well, speaking of stars, the stars were out this past week in UFC 241. One of them, one of the top pound-for-pound boxers, Terence Crawford. His promoter had fights kind of across town, right? And he chose to be at the UFC fights. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that was interesting. We were happy to have him, and he's a stud. And he chose the right card to come to.
Now, did you get a chance to talk to him?
I didn't. No, I was a little crazy that night. But I saw he was there, and he was cruising around taking pictures with everybody, and we showed him on TV. So I'm glad he came out, and I hope he had fun.
Now, recently in an interview, you said one of the biggest problems of boxing is the best won't fight the best. Speaking of that, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, everyone wants to see them fight. Do you think they should have already fought?
Yeah, they should have already fought, or they should, be at least working on that fight and building it up. And then I say this all the time, but the 4 big heavyweights right now, those guys should be all fighting each other over the next 3 years. And, it's just... It's the sport and the politics in the sport, and it's always been that way, and if somebody doesn't change it, it's always going to be that way.
How would you promote a guy like Terence Crawford?
Just like we promote all these guys here. First of all, in boxing, there is no brand. I always talk about the machine, the UFC machine that we've built here, and when we put guys who are or girls that are talented in the machine, you start to build them. And there's nothing like that in boxing. That's what I want to build. I would do it just like we've done it here.
Yeah, now, like you mentioned, the big 4 heavyweights, and I know you're very passionate while talking about them, but Tyson Fury, he has a fight coming up against a guy named Otto Wallen. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like Tyson, and I don't want to shit all over his fight, but, who?
Yeah, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Right there is one of the biggest problems with the sport of boxing. So you got a guy like Tyson Fury who comes off this amazing fight with Deontay Wilder. It was a good fight. People loved the fight and people were excited about it. And what happens? It ends in a draw, and they don't rematch, or they don't fight one of the other big 2. How does that happen? How is that even possible, right? Again, that's the sport, and it's one of the really, not only bad things about the sport, it's one of the really stupid things about the sport of boxing. Everybody wants to fight over their little tiny piece of turf, when realistically, if they did things the right way, there's tons of money for everybody. Everybody would make a lot of money. More fans would get involved. There'd be more media coverage, and the list goes on and on. The Tyson Fury fight, how many people are going to cover that? How many tickets are they going to sell? You'd think they would have learned with the last fight they just did with Tyson. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, and I'm not I'm not acting like I'm Mr., I'm going to come in and save everybody and fix everything. I don't know if it can be fixed. It might be so broken that it can't be fixed. I don't know the answer to that, but we're going to try.
And last question, I did speak to Francis Ngannou and Walt Harris, and they both told me they have interest into crossing over into boxing. And Walt Harris told me to tell you, please, let him sign with Zuffa Boxing as well. So would you let your fighters kind of sign with both promotions?
I don't love it. I don't love the idea of guys crossing over because these guys that box, like these four big heavyweights we're talking about, they've been doing it their whole life. These guys are really good, very talented athletes, and they would get killed in MMA, and these guys would probably get beat up in boxing. So I don't love the idea, but we did Mayweather McGregor, so I guess I can never say never anymore.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dana. Congratulations on the continued success, and we're all looking forward to October for the Zuffa Boxing announcement.
Thank you. I appreciate it.